this series, we'll be talking about youth leadership and speaking to youth leaders as well as those that are involved in supporting young leaders in Zambia. As FES, youth leadership is critical to the development of this country and also the involvement of young leaders in decision-making and in democracy as a whole. It is very important to mentor and nurture and train the young leaders into future leaders for democracy, because democracy is what we have right now, and it is something that we need to promote and also encourage among youth leaders in Zambia.
For me, politics is not just about making noise. It's not just about, who shouts the loudest. I was looking for specific qualities. Which leader am I going to follow? And for me, number one was first integrity. A leader who was supposed to present himself in a certain way, a leader who was supposed to be accountable, a leader also had morality. Then you remember that we had all these nasty stories about politicians. And I found that in General Mianda. I know he wasn't the popular candidate then. In fact, the previous election, 2006, he had done remarkably well. But by 2011, the party started sinking. But I thought that I could add value. So I wrote an application letter, I dropped it at one of his officers, and I received a favorable response. So by the time we were getting to 2011, I was a full-fledged member of the Heritage Party. So he had dissolved the national structures. But then in 2011, he formed what is to call a core group, a group that was around him. Myself, I was there. There was a gentleman called Nelson, the late Mulenga, the late Deputy Ambassador to India, who was a national secretary then, Henry Chenzewe. We were around him. We were about maybe 8-10 people in excess. So we didn't have money, but we believed that we can make a difference. I was somehow played a very instrumental role. I found myself to be his right-hand man. I would run errands for him, take a press statement. That time we didn't have WhatsApp. So if it was there, it was still, probably in its infancy stage. So he would literally write a press statement and give it to you and get on a cab and start distributing it. You go to Radio Phoenix, you go to ZNBC, they would set up a place for you. There was no even recording of an audio. Then they would just give you the recorder, and then you record, you read it, and then you go to 5FM, the same process. So that was my first real political experience. It was General Mianda who gave me that. The historical perspective of the youth in Zambia is that of non-participation in governance, whether it's politics or economy or anything. It's been hard. The youth do not even have the resources. I've been privileged to stand in 2 elections at parliamentary level, which I've lost. And I can tell you, just from the resource perspective, it's a tall order for you to run a successful campaign. Politics in Zambia is extremely expensive. But then again, if you look to the youth, they are the most marginalized group in terms of resource. So our country has been in that vicious cycle where the youth are only used when it is convenient. Okay? When it is convenient. Just even at Parliament right now, how many youth do we have there, maybe under 30 or under 25? We do not have any. All of them, now in Zambia it's fashionable a youth to be 50 years old in a political party, and they say, we the youth of the ruling party, we are going to do this. That is a dilemma we have in Zambia. I think organizations, for example, like FES and other cooperating partners, we need to do more to promote the youth to get into governance. The zeal is there, the appetite is there, but most of the youth, they lack the capabilities to be in the position of leadership and also to maintain themselves in positions of leadership. My strong feeling is that we must be able to invest a lot in the youth. Because when the youth catch the vision, when the youth are well trained, when the youth are rooted in ideology of the party, they can be a huge factor in the governance and the democracy of the country. And we saw that in the last election, like you said. They came out in numbers. They feel they do not have jobs. The youth thought that we are learned, we've gotten the papers, and the jobs are not there. And they were a game changer. But the question that we ask now is, even after the elections, what deliberate measures have we taken as a country to make sure that the youth have jobs?
I honestly believe that leadership starts with self. Like, I think you have to first lead yourself out of whatever dysfunction or whatever barriers that you might have, be it habits or anything. So self-leadership before you can go and lead anyone else. And I think leadership is something that should be in everyone, not just the people that we place within leadership positions. I find that one of our many flaws as a nation is we like to delegate the responsibility of leadership. So obviously you're always going to need someone who's guiding and maybe directing people and maybe sometimes making the difficult decisions. But in our everyday lives, I think we should all be leaders in one way or another. I think I have interacted, and I know that there are many young people in this country that are willing and they're ready and they're trained and they have the capacity and the capability. But then because of the nature of our country, our culture, our education system, we also have a large number of young people who need to have capacity built in order for them to take on leadership. Elections have gotten to a place where they're extremely expensive and they're extremely demanding. And it's going to be difficult for someone who is at the start of their career to compete with someone who has gone towards retirement and has investments and has multiple streams of income. And then also capacity sometimes. Sometimes the older generation has had a wealth of experience, and then they're able to take on some of these leadership positions. But that's not always true, because you also find young people who are either naturally able to have this capacity, or they have also had their capacity built. So our culture is also another element, where young people can't be in decision-making positions over older people. And I think it's one of the things inhibiting our development, honestly speaking, because I think a developed society is an inclusive society. Everyone needs to have a seat at the table. The same problem we have with the youth is the same problem we have with the women, and the same problem we have with people living with disabilities. I think also sometimes religion has been negative, but even within religion, just coming from the Christianity, even the Bible encourages people to not look down on young people and to give them space and to give them capacity. And then also schools, there's this common saying, youth are the leaders of tomorrow. So while we are waiting for tomorrow, what are we doing today? And we have people making decisions on our behalf without including us that are going to affect us tomorrow that we had no say in. And also going back to, like you mentioned, our education system. I think because young people spend so much time in school, they spend so much time in church, they spend so much time at home, because education is informal in as much as it is formal. Even in the home setting, how are we building capacity of young people to take on leadership positions? Because training is one thing, but that training also has to be put into practice in order for it to stick. We're not giving young people as many spaces to take on, to have the capacity built, but then also to be trained and to practice. Yes.
Well, I think number one, as young people, it is important for us to realize that we need to be awakened from our constant state of slumber. And number two, it is also important for us to realize that there will be no future to talk about if we don't get actively involved in the governance systems of our country now. And to wait until people are in the advanced age to begin to participate in the agenda of their nation, only very little can be achieved. So the young people have a very impactful role to play in shaping the political space, in shaping the economic and social space of our country. So we can here afford to lag behind in any hemisphere of life. So it is imperative that young people are part of the governance system. If anything meaningful has to be achieved, we need the young people, just as we need the women, just as we need the old people. So we all need each other in order for us to register some meaningful outcome. And it goes without saying that the young people already have demonstrated that they have a critical role to play in sustaining our democracy in this country. First and foremost, it's the young people who decided to change the party in government. So yes, they've got this an important role to play, and they've demonstrated it, and I hope now that they can escalate the level of responsibility by not just ending with them being able to cast a vote, but also getting actively involved in the leadership, as opposed to only being used as tools to make the elderly leaders ascend into some political leadership positions. Nobody has prohibited the young people from getting engaged or aspiring for any political position of their choice. I think we have a few examples we can cite. We have a smallest councillor somewhere in Luangwa, and she's a young lady, only aged 24. Okay, and we have also some young mayor in Chama who is less than 30 years age. So, looking at these examples, it gives you hope that yes, the political landscape is enabling for the young people to get involved actively in the political space of our country. On the other side, it's a no to the extent that, look, the African politics, and particularly the Zambian politics, requires a lot of financial strength. And this is something that our young people, this is something that quite often than not has disadvantaged our young people, because not many of them have the financial capabilities to support their political ambition. So politics in Africa generally, and in Zambia in particular, demands a lot of financial resource. So unless there are institutions such as yourselves who deliberately identify the progressive young people and young people with a vision and young people who want to get involved in political space of our country, it will be very difficult to have a fair representation of young people within our governance system.